Welcome back to our deep dive. This week, we've got some really striking source material focusing on Dhaka, Bangladesh. Specifically, a huge demonstration on April 12th, 2025.
Yeah, it's quite something. Let's try and paint a picture. Imagine Sorority Ujan in Dhaka.
Okay.
It's just overflowing, Palestinian flags everywhere, and the sound? Hundreds of thousands of people.
Wow.
Men, women, children, the elderly, all chanting together, free Palestine.
So this wasn't just a small gathering.
Not at all. Reports describe it as a massive protest against Netanyahu. They even mention, symbolic acts like burning his image, spitting on it, a real outpouring.
And Bangladesh, it has a history here, right?
Yeah.
As a Muslim-majority nation, they've consistently spoken out for Palestine.
Exactly. That's the context.
Yeah.
But what made this one stand out, apparently, was the sheer scale. It really grabbed international attention. Even Israeli media, like the Times of Israel, noted it. They basically acknowledged, look, the people of Bangladesh are not staying silent on this.
Which leads to maybe the most surprising detail. Donald Trump apparently commented on it.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable, isn't it? Given his generally very pro-Israel stance.
What did he reportedly say?
Well, the reports claim he said something like he'd never seen a Muslim protest that large before.
Really?
And even suggested that Arab nations should maybe follow Bangladesh's example.
That's quite a statement from him. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It throws this contrast into sharp relief. You have some Arab states with immense wealth, oil, luxury.
Right.
And then you have Bangladesh, a smaller nation, economically speaking, but showing this incredible, passionate response.
It sort of positions Dhaka, symbolically at least, as maybe a focal point, like the heart of the Muslim world's sentiment on this issue right now.
It certainly raises that possibility. It suggests a different kind of influence, perhaps.
And it touches on that age-old question of power. Israel might look at its military, its jets, Iron Dome, U.S. support,
All the hardware, yeah.
and feel, pretty secure. But history often tells a different story, doesn't it?
It really does. Popular movements, this kind of collective will, it can be surprisingly resilient. Sometimes it outlasts sheer military might.
And this wasn't just happening in Dhaka, was it? The ripples spread.
Oh, definitely. That's a key point.
Yeah.
Similar protests started popping up in other major cities,
Like where?
like London, Paris, New York. You saw solidarity movements gaining traction.
And social media must have played a part.
Hugely. Hashtags like hashtag boycott Israel, hashtag Netanyahu or criminal, they amplify everything. It gets harder and harder for the international media to just, ignore it.
So let's think about Netanyahu himself for a second. He's seeing these images, hearing these reports from Dhaka, from London, Paris. Does he just dismiss it? Think it's inconsequential?
It's hard to imagine he's not aware,
Right.
but whether he dismisses it, history has some cautionary tales there, doesn't it?
Like who?
Well, think about figures like Hitler or Mussolini. Early on, they probably waved away opposition as nothing serious.
Right. Underestimating the groundswell.
Exactly. And that's why some of the details from Dhaka are so poignant. There's this image described in the reports, a young child
Yeah.
holding a Palestinian flag, chanting Free Palestine. It's powerful. It speaks to something deeper, more enduring than just a single news cycle.
It really does. That idea of resistance.
Yeah.
Even when things look incredibly bleak, like Gaza under fire, that spirit can still find a way. Like sparks from ashes, that kind of thing.
Precisely. And this Dhaka protest, it really feels like one of those sparks. A torch being lit, maybe?
Yeah. It seems like it was more than just a protest. The reports frame it as a kind of awakening.
An awakening against, what many people see as hatred, killing, tyranny. The feeling seems to be that Netanyahu's actions, his whole approach.
His true nature, as some might put it.
Right, that it's been exposed globally. And Bangladesh, through this massive unified act, showed one way a nation can stand up.
Setting an example almost.
Yeah, posing a question to the rest of the world, perhaps.
Okay, let's get into the specifics of that main event, the March for Gaza. Saturday, April 12th, 2025. Surabaya Ujian again.
Right. And the turnout, according to organizers and reports, was just unprecedented. We're talking millions.
Millions, really.
That's the claim. And crucially, people came from all sorts of backgrounds, different political parties, different ideologies.
All united on this one issue.
Apparently so. The organizers felt they'd never seen that level of unity for the Palestinian cause in Bangladesh before. It was quite remarkable.
Now, this was organized under a banner called the Palestine Solidarity Movement Bangladesh.
Yes, seemingly quite new and described as sort of leaderless, which is interesting in itself. It just materialized and drew this enormous response.
How did it compare to earlier efforts? I think there was a No Work, No School campaign mentioned.
Right, that was on April 7th. It got wide support too, but it was apparently more scattered.
And there were some issues.
Yeah, unfortunately, some isolated incidents. Reports mention attacks on businesses accused of selling Israeli products, things like that.
But the March for Gaza organizers managed to avoid that.
It seems they were very proactive about it. They wanted to prevent any distractions or negative incidents, keep the focus squarely on solidarity.
And the timing of the event itself, people started showing up early.
Oh, yes. The march was scheduled for 3 p.m., but people were gathering from the morning onwards.
So the place was packed well before it even started.
By 2 p.m., reports say Sururwardi Udyan and all the surrounding streets were completely full. Just an unusually large gathering, even for that historic spot.
And people kept coming, even after it officially ended.
Yeah, that's another indicator of the feeling. People just kept arriving.
What about the political aspect? You mentioned unity, but were political parties actually involved on the day?
They were present. Representatives from major parties, BNP, Jamaat, NCP, other Islamic parties, like-minded leaders, they were all there.
Okay.
They were even acknowledged from the stage as guests. But, and this seems key.
They didn't speak.
Exactly. No political speeches. A deliberate choice, it seems, to maintain that unified, nonpartisan focus on Palestine.
Smart. So how did the actual event unfold? The proceedings?
It was pretty structured, actually. Kicked off with a Quran recitation.
Mm-hmm.
Then some prominent Islamic figures, Shia Madullah and Maulana Mizanur Rahman Azari, gave some calming, unifying remarks.
Setting the tone.
Right. Then the main declaration and pledge of the event were read out.
By whom?
Mamadou Rahman, he's the editor of Dainik Amardesh newspaper.
Okay.
And the whole thing wrapped up relatively quickly, within about an hour, with a final prayer, a monajat.
Who led the prayer?
The Khatib of the National Mosque, Beitul Mukarram. So a very focused, organized event.
Now, bringing all these different groups and figures together, even if they didn't speak,
Yeah.
that must have caused some discussion, right? About what it means for politics within Bangladesh.
Absolutely. Some observers are definitely interpreting this as a significant show of unity among Islamic forces, let's say.
Seeing people who disagree on other things standing together on this.
Exactly. So there's speculation now about whether this unity might carry over, what influence it might have down the line. It's something analysts are watching.
And the declaration itself, the one read by Mamadou Rahman, what were the key demands?
Well, number one was pretty clear. Immediate steps to end the Israeli aggression in Gaza.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
It went further. It called on leaders across the Muslim world to cancel all agreements with Israel.
All agreement.
And sever all ties. A really strong call.
Wow. Anything else broader?
Yeah, it mentioned perceived aggression against Muslims worldwide, generally. And it specifically voiced frustration with the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and other Muslim leaders for perceived inaction.
So a critique of the established leadership, too.
Seems so. And interestingly, it also included opposition to a specific Indian law, the Waqf Amendment Act.
Okay, so connecting regional issues as well. What about demands specific to Bangladesh itself?
Yes, there was a call to reinstate something on the passport. Apparently, the phrase "accept Israel" used to be on Bangladeshi passports, indicating travel wasn't permitted there. It was removed at some point, and they want it put back.
A symbolic but significant point about national stance.
Definitely. And finally, a major call was for a boycott.
Boycotting Israeli goods.
Israeli goods, yes, but also goods from companies seen as supporting Israel, a broad economic action call.
So it was solidarity, but also concrete demands for action, political, diplomatic, economic.
Absolutely. It wasn't just about expressing feeling. It was about demanding change.
Which brings us back to Netanyahu, seeing all this, the scale, the unity, these specific demands, the global spread. Can he really just ignore it?
It's the big question, isn't it? I mean, the pressure is undeniable. It feels like more than just a blip.
That image of the child again, it sticks with you. That sense of history, of resistance.
It does, because the situation in Gaza, it's dire, no question. But what Dhaka showed, perhaps, is that even in the face of that, the will to resist, to demand change, it doesn't just disappear.
It can ignite.
It can ignite. And maybe this protest was that ignition point, that spark we talked about.
Yeah. It really does feel like the sources portray this as more than just a protest, a kind of global awakening, focused on what they see as injustice.
And a sense that Netanyahu's actions have been laid bare for the world to see. Bangladesh, in this telling, showed a way to stand against it.
leaving that question hanging
Yeah.
for other nations, perhaps.
And maybe for Netanyahu himself. You hear that final, powerful quote echoing from the sentiment of the protests.
Lessa.
Netanyahu, listen, your time is up. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How will history judge this moment?